I'm Carol Orbison, and I'd like to welcome everybody to our meeting by Zoom, fellow Kiwanians and all of our guests. We are happy to be together, hopefully, sometime early in January. Is that what we decided? In person at the Columbia Club?
Yes.
Yep, second Tuesday in January, we're going to come together. We'll do the candle lighting, we'll do annual awards, the civic and career awards, perfect attendance, have some social time, kind of low key, and practice our distancing.
Yeah, excellent. Let's maybe start out with a few announcements. Our Foundation Board and Fostering Families Committee have generously donated the Fostering Families Program money to the Salvation Army's Angel Tree Program for Christmas assistance, which will help out 180 children. The Angel Tree is also downtown Kiwanis's Q4 service project. So check out the newsletter or the website on details of how to make Christmas special for those in need. We will also be bell ringing this December at Kroger at 71st and Benford. So be certain to sign up for that. We recently took on another Key Club at Speedway High School and are looking for a Kiwanis sponsor. Let Kiwanis, the office, know if you are interested in doing that. Thanksgiving is next week, so we will not be meeting. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Hopefully we'll be away from this virus thing sometime early next year, I hope. At any rate, happy Thanksgiving to you and your families.
There's your phone in case you're looking for it.
Yeah. Also, it is suggested that we, instead of paying for lunch, that we donate that lunch money to our club. That would be highly appreciated. And we have a new member, Art. Let me know if I mispronounce your name. Kadroff?
That's correct. Yes.
Is that correct? Wonderful.
Yes.
I invite you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Carol. And wanted to first thank Graham Honecker and Pete Sheath. I don't know if they're on the call today, but I wanted to thank them for encouraging me to join the Kiwanis Club chapter. As Carol mentioned, my name's Art Kadroff. I'm the controller at the Capital Improvement Board, or CIB as we're commonly known, and we're the municipal corporation that owns and operates the Convention Center and Lucas Oil Stadium. We also own Bankers Life Fieldhouse and Victory Field. Originally from the Philadelphia area, grew up in a suburb just outside of Philadelphia. My father was transferred to Indianapolis while I was in high school, and I finished high school at North Central, then went on to Butler University, where I majored in accounting. And interesting note, while I was at Butler in the early 80s, all 4 years, the basketball team had a losing record, and the attendance at Hinkle Fieldhouse was about 1,000, including students. It got the for free. So obviously a significant change since then for a long time. But my wife and I have a golden doodle puppy dog. And some of my outside interests include cycling. I like to do a lot of bike riding. Indianapolis and Hamilton County, where I do most of my riding, is great, very bicycle friendly. Also play golf during the summer and occasionally a 5K running event. I used to do longer events, but not so much anymore. So I kind of stick to the shorter ones at this point. And I'm also involved in a number of community support things, 3 nonprofits that I'm involved in, one of which is that I'm on the board of is Teachers Treasures, which provides school supplies to teachers, and was a recent recipient of the Kiwanis Club donation. So I was excited to see that. Also on the board of the nonprofit called Pathway to Recovery, which provides support and programs for individuals in Indianapolis that are experiencing addiction and homelessness, and works towards getting them off of addiction and into permanent housing. And then another one that I'm involved in is relatively new, called the Aspire Higher Foundation, which is a program that supports the community on the near northwest side. We acquired a abandoned firehouse, fire station, and is converting that into a community center. So those are some of the things that I like to get involved in, but I'm excited to be a member of the this chapter, and looking forward to meeting everyone in person. It sounds like January is going to be when that takes place. I'm very much looking forward to that. So thanks.
Thanks, Art. We're so happy to have you as a member of our group. I also have we have the great pleasure of having with us Aaron Hurt, who is the Executive Director of Butler Arts, who will be speaking to us today. And I think, Trina, perhaps you could introduce Aaron and let us then enjoy his presentation.
I would love to. Bear with me one sec. So Aaron was originally planning to speak with our club in April, and was gracious enough to roll with the scheduling changes and the format changes, and thankfully is with us today. The show must go on, right? Many of you have been inside Clowes Hall, maybe for a national touring performance, the Indianapolis Children's Choir concert, or even a university event. A few of you have even visited the Butler Center next door to Clowes for a more intimate experience. As we'll hear today, the Butler Arts Center is far more than most of us realize, but I won't give that story away. University President James Danko summed it up best when, upon Aaron's appointment to his current position, said, "This was in his blood, and you can just tell by his enthusiasm that he was born to do this." Aaron was officially named Executive Director of the Butler Arts Center on January 1st, 2019, after serving as Interim Executive Director since the previous August that followed a stint as the Director of Operations there. But this is a role that in many ways he has been working towards since he was a little boy, a role that reaches into his extended family. That's another story I won't give away. Aaron was born into a family of projectionists. He was exposed to film, the arts, and theater from a young age, and often went to work with his father. But he first remembers Clowes from when he saw his sister, an opera singer, perform there. He and his wife Karen regularly take part in local theater on stage and off. As an arts administration major at Butler, he learned that he could make a career out of running the programming and operations. After graduating in 2008, he worked for the Indianapolis Children's Choir, the Chicago Children's Choir, and then made his way back to Butler in 2013. Aaron has been able to put his stamp on the place that has had a major role in his family's lives for so long, something that he has called both terrifying and incredible. Aaron, thanks for being with us today. The stage is yours.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the introduction. I'm trying not to blush. It's hard to hear those things and not get excited. Let me share my screen with you. Presentation. All right. Can everybody see that? Okay. So thank you for having me today. This is pretty cool. I do have a slide deck here, but by no means am I married to it. So the way I run meetings, and I teach a class here at Butler every other year too, is interrupt me. I take no offense. If you have a question, I'd rather answer it in the moment and have a natural conversation as opposed to forgetting about it, and maybe we don't have that conversation if we leave it to the end. So this slideshow is just really to kind of keep me on track while I talk at you. But feel free to use the chat feature or anything to get my attention as we go. So kind of like an overview of what we'll talk about today. The Butler Arts and Event Center, what is that? Why? Huh? What are you doing? So we'll give you the lowdown on what's going on over here at Butler. And then I think something that'd be very interesting to go over is how is COVID-19 impacting in the entertainment industry, particularly from my spin here at Butler. So what are we doing now? Will this ever end? And how I often feel, ugh, when I think about it. And then we'll have time at the end for questions if you don't feel like interrupting me. But again, feel free. I take no offense. So thank you for the great background. So as was mentioned, I've kind of grown up in this industry. My family were all movie projectionists. I have fond memories of, as a kid, going to work with my dad in the booth, and he'd teach me how to splice film together and how all that works. It's pretty interesting to go back, like, my mind to think about how long I've been around this. Fun fact, my grandfather actually hung the original curtain here at Clowes Hall when it was being built. And then my dad's first job ever as a stagehand was here at Clowes Hall when he was 16. So it's kind of fun. When I started the job, we actually found the payroll slips, because everything was done by hand back then. And we still have all that, where we could see my grandfather and my dad's first paychecks here when Clowes started. So it's pretty cool. So what is the Butler Arts and Event Center? I often still wonder. So you're familiar with Clowes Memorial Hall, which is the mainstay here at Butler. We have 2,100 seats. It was the main theater really for town, for most touring arts industry, for entertainment, until about the mid-90s when the Murat got renovated. From there down, we opened the Schrott Center for the Arts in 2013, which is how I came to Butler. I was the original manager of the Schrott Center, and then kind of weaseled my way up to where I am now since then. Recently, Butler acquired the campus of Christian Theological Seminary, just the south side of Butler. In that acquisition was Shelton Auditorium, which has about 400 seats, which we're currently in the process of renovating it to get it so it can be handled touring shows again. We also have the Eids and Duckwall Recital Hall, which used to be the chapel on campus, and then in 2001 was renovated into this beautiful recital hall. And we have the Lily Hall Studio Theater in next door to Clowes in Lily Hall, where we do a lot of the Butler theater productions. In 2016, we rebranded all those spaces into what we call the Butler Arts Center. Now we can have one central management. Before 2016, Clowes Memorial Hall had a different management staff than what I was doing at Schrott. Shelton was over there with CTS doing their thing. The recital hall was handled by a different entity, and the studio theater we kind of forgot we had. So the idea was, how do we get these theaters aligned properly? How do we get the same management team? How do we be professional about how we handle theaters? So we did that and created the Butler Arts Center. And that worked really well. So we kept that going for a few years. And then in 2019, when the previous director, Ty Sutton, he was here for a few years, he moved on, and then I came in interim. I was really conversations with campus leadership. Have we done enough? Have we gone far enough, and what could this be? Butler is big about innovation and being, how do we be a leader in things? Well, how do we be a leader in how event management should happen on a campus? It's rare for a university to have a Clowes Memorial Hall that operates the way we do. We're not university funded like most university theaters. We think like the Krannert Center at University of Illinois, or even the IU Auditorium, 90% up to 90% of their budget comes from the university. I get about 10% of my budget from the university. So most of our $5 million operation, I have to raise through earned income through ticket sales. That's rare for a university. So we're already kind of this odd thing. How we just blow it up and say, let's just do this a whole new way and become the new industry standard. So we looked at another division on campus called what we called University Events. They handled all space rental across campus. We have a large ballroom called the Riley Room, holds about 400 people. We have the beautiful gardens where lots of weddings take place in the summer. All the mini classrooms across campus. We have a chapel through the CTS acquisition. And we also have a guest housing unit where we have about 8 houses that we rent out, as well as a duplex for short-term stays. So why don't we put all this together and make one new entity, which is what we now call the Butler Arts and Event Center. So I like to think of it as 2 centers we have the Arts Center and the Event Center co-mingled. By doing this, we're able to get a lot better consistency across the board. If you wanted to have a large event on campus before we did this, it could be upwards of 3 contracts with 3 different contacts to have one entity here, or one conference here. So say you were a large church group that wanted to be here for a week with 2,000 people. You wanted a church service on Sunday in Clowes Hall. You wanted breakout rooms across campus, and you wanted dorms. That would have been 3 contracts. Now it's 1. Now you have 1 contact for everything to make it all consistent. We're able to bid on projects like that a lot better and give a better experience to those clients. This also lets us have a little more consistent expertise. Around here on campus, a lot of times with the move up to the Big East, we sometimes joke that things are still in the Horizon League. Our expertise on our event side was still in the Horizon League while we were in the Big East on the Arts Center side. So now we were able to bring that all up to consistency. We all using the same terminology, we all have the same understanding of how industry practices go, and able to actually provide this better context. It's a lot more profitable this way. It's a better work-life balance. It's not unusual for us to have 3 or 4 events happening at the exact same time. Previously, we'd have 3 or 4 people on campus managing all those events. We can now take that down to 1 or 2 people to let people have some time away from here, better work-life balance, which is better culture building, and you're not feeling burnt out by your employer that way. So the events industry has a long-term history of turning people over because it's a lot of long days back to back to back. We're able to combat that by combining these 2 divisions together. So one day you may be managing Clowes Hall for a Broadway show. The next day you're managing a reception across campus. And that's okay. And that actually is better experience for a lot of these entry-level positions too, because they're going to get a vast majority of experience can go on to other jobs one day too. And I think the main reason that I look at why Clowes exists is to be a marketing tool for the university. I'm not afraid to say that Clowes Hall was probably the 3rd best theater in the Indy market there for a while, and I don't want to be that. So how can I change Clowes Hall to be the main theater for Indianapolis? When you think of someone's coming through town, they're either going to Indianapolis or they're going outside, they're going to Klipsch on the north side. That's where we're trying to get back to, which we haven't really been that way since the early 2000s. And I put on there kind of my little, if I'm in an elevator speech, my one thing, what I do, I'm a one-stop shop from Broadway down to a retirement party. So any given week, it could be 8 Broadway shows over 7 days to this 40-year tenured faculty member is retiring. And we treat each of that with the same consistency. Anybody have any questions on kind of that part of it? Okay. So what's really fun? COVID-19 and what's it done to us, right? So everything hit on March 12th here for us. We were in the middle of a 3-day-long band festival for Music for All. They kind of take over the city, and basically every theater in town, they use them. We're the home base for the festival. So we have high school bands in Clowes. We have middle school bands in the Schrott Center. All of Lilly Hall is booked with rehearsal spaces. We're using all of campus. We can only do this when Butler's on spring break because of how much it takes over campus. On the 11th at night, the NBA canceled a game. On the 12th, everything hit here in Indy. So in the middle of that festival, we had to pull the plug. We had parents from Texas calling us saying, "What are you doing? How dare you have kids going, still rehearsing in there? Don't you know you're going to kill them?" To people like, it's not going to be here. Don't worry about it. We were very lucky here at Butler that our contracts are very good, that our general counsel had always had pandemics and epidemics in our force majeure language. So we didn't have any issue getting any of those cancellations going. The very next day, we canceled the next 3 months of events in all venues. We knew that wasn't going to be enough, but that got us a starting base. We've been on a rolling cancellation ever since. So for example, we're a little more than 3 months out. We're about 5 months out now. I'm currently canceled we're just starting to cancel out April right now. What really hurt us is, I said, we're about a $5 million operation. Between March and end of May, which is the end of our fiscal year, we usually bring in about $1.5 million in ticket revenue. So of our $5 million operation, I just lost $1.5 million, but I'd also spent most of my expenses still, because you prepay quite a bit in this industry. So it was definitely not a good turn for us. One of the things I'm very proud of is every year that I've been in leadership here at Clowes and the Arts Center has been a better fiscal year than the past. The year prior to this COVID year was the best fiscal year in Clowes history in 15 years that we can just go back to see. That's as long as I have digital records. So we were on track to actually blow that out of the water. Clowes Memorial Hall has not made true net revenue for the university since the 70s. We were going to do it last year in 1920. So even with that $1.5 million loss, I still almost broke even, to give you an idea of how well we were trending. And it kind of shows you how the mindset of, I don't want to be the 3rd best theater in the market. I want to be the best theater, and how we were getting there. Other things that canceled, all summer conferences canceled, which unfortunately is most of the revenue for our event side. And 90% of summer camps canceled. The ones that did happen were athletics camps that were outside, and we let those happen at the end of the summer when things were starting to trend a little bit better with heavy social distancing and health and safety standards. So what did we do since? We didn't just cancel and shut down. We kept operating. We had to take this mindset of, we got to survive this. In a lot of cases, an organization, as I said, Clowes is very unique by being university owned compared to most of our peers. this is a time for us, most of the time it's pain in the butt, but now it's like, let's take this to our advantage. We're actually going to have a financial backer to keep us going through this. So let's earn our keep and make sure we're helping out the university, but also set ourselves up so that when on the other side of this, we're as good as we can be to go. It is survival of the fittest for sure in the arts industry right now. Most smaller theaters have already closed. A lot of the larger theaters are right on the edge. Our biggest competitor is Live Nation that owns the old National Center downtown. They've furloughed quite a bit of people, and there's not a lot of people that we're having to worry about too much with competition with booking shows because of that. But a lot of what's going to happen now is how do we set ourselves up so that a lot of these smaller theaters, like think of like the Jasper Arts Center, are they going to be there when things are popping up again? I don't know. So how can I change the mindset from Clowes Hall's Indianapolis theater to a Central Indiana regional theater, so that now we're not just drawing people in from the donut counties, but I'm pulling people in from Richmond maybe even to see shows, or maybe even over into Ohio or Illinois, depending on the show quality. So how do we get there? If anything, we're kind of an expert on how to move people around. So we took initiative and did all the social distancing redesign for campus. How do we fit people in a classroom? The one thing we found out is that there were not drawings of how every classroom was laid out on this campus until this hit. So we're trying to figure out how many people are in this classroom. Well, how many chairs are actually in there? There was no idea. So we had to go through and make all that up for campus and then figure out how to social distance it. We reworked all of the venues into classrooms, which sounds kind of a no-brainer, but what's interesting is that just because a computer plugs in with the same port doesn't mean it works the same way in the theater world as it does from a classroom. So it was a lot of heavy conversion to make theaters work as classrooms. So right now we have about 75 classes going a week through the Arts Center venues. What's interesting to us is, as I'm saying this, we have to operate those like a show. So essentially we have 75 shows a week right now, when on a good week we would have had 8. So it's been night and day shift on our labor to keep them operating at a high level when it seems like most of the industry would actually be shut down. We're actually one of the very few places in town that still has union labor working 40 hours a week on a regular basis with their house crew. We're also doing about 10 to 20 recording sessions a week in there as well. We record anything from a jazz ensemble to choirs outside, things like that, to create some sort of produced content to display. To go back to the classroom piece right now, what's really interesting, we're probably the most decked out classrooms. I don't think the students have any idea. It's really fun to walk into Clowes Hall and see all these students spread out. We took a different approach than most venues on how we're marking seats. We mark where we want you to sit, not where you can't sit. So we have yellow headbands that are around every seat that you can sit in. So if you look at Clowes Hall, it looks like a giant McDonald's commercial because of all the red and yellow. But it's pretty obvious, like, hey, there are 300 seats where you can sit. Obviously, the county won't let me have 300 people. But it's pretty fun to walk in and see a class, just like, it's just so unique. The crazy part is Clowes operates off of 2 20K projectors. And to give you an idea, like a normal classroom projector is about a 4K projector, costs about $1,000. These are like $20,000 projectors. They actually came off Madonna's tour in 2016. So these students have no idea that what they're watching their presentation on was then projection mapping an arena for Madonna. Like, it's just kind of cool for me to think like how this stuff's reworking, but I'm not going to geek out on you on that. We're doing all these recordings. We've also become a recording studio for a lot of local arts organizations. We actually had the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra recording in Clowes Hall tonight for their December production on WFYI. We're doing those at cost. I'm not someone that's trying to like make some money off somebody because of the situation. So if anyone wants to come here, they just have to pay the labor to run the building. They're welcome to use the space as they need to survive and produce their content still. So a couple of organizations have taken us up on that. The hardest part is finding space that's big enough for an organization to perform with distancing. We're one of the largest spaces that can do a lot of the stuff in-house. So we've got a pretty good record and interest, which has been nice. As I mentioned, we're recording everything. We're one of the few consistent producing of content for the arts right now in the city, actually in the state even. We produce 3 shows a week. Every Thursday night is a school music showcase. So whoever has whatever ensemble has something ready to go, we've recorded it, we're going to put it up that Thursday. Every Sunday, we live stream out of the recital hall a Beethoven piano sonata. So we actually will do all of the Beethoven piano sonatas over the course of this past semester. And then Tuesday nights, we live stream faculty recitals. What a lot of people don't realize is that Butler has a lot of high quality faculty musicians. Some perform with the ISO, some came from New York here to perform. Let's showcase them and get them out there too. So 3 shows a week, all of that through our website, butlerartscenter.org, which we had redesigned over the summer to be able to support streaming content. The downside was that my head of marketing left right when COVID hit. So we haven't done the best job of getting this out there to Indianapolis that we are doing all this content. And we're kind of doubling down on efforts with that right now. We've launched what we're calling the archive. We didn't just start recording stuff now. We've been recording stuff for decades. So we actually have all this past catalog of shows back from, I want to say, to the mid 80s. And we're going to start uploading those to almost create our own version of Netflix, where if you want to come in and you want to see, like, I want to see myself when I was a Nutcracker back in 1993, we probably got it, and we'll put it up there, and you can see yourself in the mouse garb having in that scene. So we actually just signed a deal with Vimeo yesterday to get that rolling so that we'll have this branded out Netflix of Jordan College of the Arts content. Probably won't make money off of it, but it's something we should do. And we've also gone through and created what's called faux fans. I'm sure you might have seen the White Sox did this recently, I think, and also a lot of sports teams have, where they put fake fans in the audience. We've done that, so mom and dad can buy a faux fan. We'll get them printed out, put them in the audience when we record their student performing. It's not the same as really being there, but it does kind of give you it's much better to play to a cardboard cutout than it is to an empty auditorium. It seems to be going pretty well. So I mentioned I want to come out of this better. What does that mean? And how do we get there? We're constantly moving and positioning tours. And I'd say right now we probably have more shows booked than we ever have. We're booked through the end of 2022 right now, almost solid. Normally we operated on, let me backtrack a little bit. Clowes Hall kind of always operated under this arts model, right? We're going to do 12 shows a year. That's our season. It'll be very arts centered heavy. So I'm thinking ballet, orchestra, choral, things that are more like high art. As we've transitioned away to that to more entertainment art, those shows don't book as far out. They only book usually about 6 months out. So it's a lot of just fingers crossed that shows are going to come and you're going to make your budget. Even under that new model, we're still booked through the end of 2022. That's how crazy it is right now, shows moving so much. So in some ways, we're busier on the programming side than we ever have, just because, hey, can you make this show happen for $3,000 with this new reality? Let's go, that kind of mindset. It's a lot of fun. It's exhausting, but it's fun. So once we can actually turn the keys on and open this place up again and go, we're going to be booked, and it's going to be with some high level stuff. We've refocused the Arts and Event Center Clowes specifically and how we're going to think bigger. Again, as I mentioned, how do we think of Clowes not just as indie theater, but a regional theater? How do we bring in artists that aren't just for the indie audience? To give an example, in the last year, we brought in a show called Baby Shark, which is that like camp song, Baby Shark, do, 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 Baby Shark, okay. It gets stuck in your head, so I won't keep going, but I've already probably gone too far. And that was actually the highest grossing net revenue show for us at Clowes has ever had. Because we changed the mindset. We're not just going to market that show to Indianapolis, we're going to market to all of the region. So we actually had people coming from Champaign, Illinois, from Dayton, Ohio to come see that show. So we know the model works, so let's just double down on it and go for it. And how do we become a true driver for Indianapolis? I mentioned that we started all these new virtual offerings here. That's never going to go away at this point. Everyone's going to have some expectation of virtual offerings with your shows moving forward. So how do we really take advantage of that? This is kind of why we brought in Vimeo here yesterday to help us with that. We're trying something. It'll launch day after Thanksgiving, where our Butler's Nutcracker will be a free to watch streaming or pre-recorded event. We spent all last week recording it. It's actually in production right now for us to produce it. We'll probably never not do that again, right? We'll probably always have some sort of virtual offering. And if you think of Butler Ballet, we're the #3 dance school in the country. Do people in Indy know that? Probably not as well as they know it outside of Indianapolis, actually, when you get to the major cities. So why don't we sell this virtual offering in New York, in Atlanta, in San Francisco, where there are heavy dance markets? That's where we're recruiting from. So we should double down on that. So that's something with these virtual offerings that we couldn't do before well that we'll now be able to. So next year at this time, we'll have Nutcracker in person and also a pay-per-view online version as well. And guys kind of went into it, but creation of new programs. What had to go away and what can we help out? is there a way that if community theater goes away in Indianapolis, because a lot of those smaller organizations are struggling, can I create a community theater to fill that void until they can get back and going? Or do I say, hey, Footlight Musicals, I know you're struggling. I'll give you a free home for now until you can get back on your feet. Those are the conversations we're starting as well about how can we be the art center for Indianapolis and help maintain those relationships too. So that was kind of my spiel. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I kind of ran through all that.
Aaron, how does the general public find out about the virtual programs?
Yeah, so we haven't done our best job marketing them, I don't think. Everything is on butlerartscenter.org, which is our home base. We do a lot of social media marketing. We haven't done much print marketing during all of this because it's not really positive where people are getting their print marketing right now. A lot of times we would do traditional print marketing where we put postcards in coffee shops and things like that. Well, people aren't lingering there as much, so it's not really worth the value of doing that. So we've been doing a lot of heavy, try to get our social media engagement up. I will say our email list is very comprehensive. We have 115,000 households on our email list, which is pretty good for a venue our size. So a lot of it comes through that as well too.
Okay.
Aaron,
Trina, go ahead.
now this is Mary Marsh. I went to Butler shortly after Clowes was completed and have spent quite a bit of time there. Love the facility and have had Broadway series tickets for years and years. My question is, has there ever been thought put into whether or not it would be beneficial to have a center aisle at Clowes Hall? If I hear one complaint when I'm there, it's that people have to crawl over so many people to get to their seats. Has anybody really ever seriously considered that option?
Yeah. So continental seating like we have is, it's a blessing and a curse. You get more people in the building because of it, and you get a little more leg room, but you definitely have a butt in your face all the time when people try to get out of the aisle, right? We did look at it about 6-7 years ago or so. We put new seats in, and we were going to put a center aisle in, and we actually were told we couldn't by the fire marshal. And maybe I shouldn't say we couldn't. It was going to cost us a ton of money. We had to tear the whole floor up and replane it. The level of the slope of Clowes Memorial Hall is very steep and too steep by current code, but it was okay by 60s code. So the fire marshal said, if you want a center aisle in, that's great, but you got to come up to current code, and we'd lose our grandfathering in. So that's why we didn't do it. Yeah, but I wish I had one too. It's annoying. But it looks gorgeous from stage. The artists love the continental seating because of how like full it looks. So it's kind of cool.
I have a couple of questions in the chat. One is, what is the maximum number of people that you can accommodate for a convention? I think that came in as you were talking about utilizing all of Butler.
Yeah, so we have, basically it's what our bedding capacity would be. So my team handles the dorms on campus during the summer, and they go back to student affairs during the school year. So we have right around about 1,000 dorm rooms, but each are double occupancy, about 2,000 people.
Is it a novel concept to stay in a dorm while you're at a conference? Totally off topic, but
it's a different level of conference that we tend to get, and we really kind of market it on you're more of almost like a camp atmosphere. Than if you wanted a traditional hotel conference, you're not going to look at us in the first place. But yeah, so some people really dig it.
So you're saying there's no room service at Ross?
Correct. There's not, and you want to bring a fan too. But the new dorms that we have built are Irvington and Fairview. They're hotel quality actually, and they're suite style, but still with individual rooms. So something that we can actually have 4 people in a room individual. We specialize a lot of church conference groups. We do a lot of housing for sporting groups. So if they're going to, what's it called? Grant Park up in Westfield, a lot of the camps, or the coaches actually, referees for the Grant Park soccer stay here with us in the summer every year. So it's someone they're looking for a cheaper option than staying in a hotel all summer, but they still want a nice place to put their head.
Awesome. Roger had asked, are there any thoughts on an outdoor venue similar to Hilton New Brown Theater that was removed several years ago?
I wish. I've been in President Danko's ear quite frequently about building another theater on campus. The big trend right now is to build indoor amphitheaters in a way. So a 4,000 person standing room. So think like a giant ballroom kind of like the convention center spaces, with a stage on one end. That's the current trend. Amphitheaters are great. They're expensive to maintain, and you only can make money about 3 months out of the year, and then you're constantly worried about it raining. So I know like the one they just put downtown, they're actually going to put a shell over the seating here soon. I think they're doing it right now, maybe, to help with that. So we have had some conversations with, can we put a stage back on the football field again? Maybe in a corner, and how could we do some outdoor shows? It's very costly to do it. And if you're going to do it, you might as well build the indoor version. I'd love to have Hilton Brown though. Starlight Musicals is near and dear in so many people's hearts. I hear about it all the time.
What's the most interesting partnership you've created to succeed during the pandemic?
Ooh, that's hard.
Or top two, top three.
Yeah. I think what's been most interesting is the creativity of people we work with, about how can we modify things. So we talked to the chamber orchestra, hey, can we turn a parking lot into a concert venue for you? There's lots of ideas, not everything's come to fruition. There's a lot of nervousness of, once you pull the plug, is that plan going to work 3 days later? So I know all of us watch the governor's 2:30 Wednesday briefings like it's must-see TV. So I think that a lot of it, the most interesting, I think, is we work a lot with a national touring promoter called AEG. Kind of the way the entertainment industry works, there's very few independent promoters like me. I'll produce or present about 50 shows a year. Most of the time, though, an artist doesn't want to deal with 50 people across the country. They want to do a one-stop shop. So companies like Live Nation that operate the Murat downtown, they'll put in offers for 50 venues across the country to the artist. Here's your one-stop shop. I've got your whole tour. Let's go. For me to compete with that, I have to find a version of Live Nation to partner with. I can't partner with Live Nation because they're already in the market. I have to find their competitor, which mainly is AEG and Outback. They're the two main we work with. We had gotten into some partnerships with AEG when this started. It's really done well. I think we're probably talking about 3 shows a week right now with them, where they just come up, hey, can we make this work? Can we make this work? And we've also started conversations with, I mentioned Outback. They're the national promoter, which we started really get going with too. So if anything, it's been that the word's gone out that, hey, Clowes Hall's still operating, the door's still open. You might have a hard time getting a hold of someone at another theater in Indianapolis, but hey, if you want to put a show and try to get planned, Aaron Hurt's your guy, and he'll find a way to make it happen. And that's huge for us because that relationship building never goes away. And that's how we're going to maintain that after this too. So I hope that answered it in a way.
Yeah, thank you. Duke has the $1 million question in here. What would your Clowes Hall dream event be?
Dolly Parton, hands down. I love
She's
Dolly
getting
Parton.
harder.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. She's so expensive to book. And whenever she just wants to make a little money, she'll just put out to an agent, hey, give me a couple shows. And they're booked within like an hour, if that. But talk about like the great uniter, right? How cool would that be?
She can read us bedtime stories, whatever.
I don't care what the show is, in between. Right? She was doing a collaboration with a show, was it Radio Lab? I think it was the radio show on NPR. And they were talking about taking it out on tour. So we put an early bid on that. Like if it happens, I doubt that we'd get it. But yeah, it would be awesome. I got a little embarrassed. I'm going to brag on myself. I was one of IBJ's 40 under 40 this year. And they had asked me that question, like, who was your dream artist during the interviews? And then they called me out on in front of the stage and they made me go up in front of everybody. And it's like, oh my gosh, Dolly Parton. But yeah.
Sweet.
When do you think you'll be able to start rescheduling events?
Yeah, right now, reality, we think into August. So we're in conversations on a Frankie Valli date right now with the actual Frankie Valli. And we had a conversation about September. I know we're like, is that too early? Will his audience want to come out still? I think we're right in that early September, late August is reality where we're going to be at. If the vaccine news is true, I mean, it's got to be widespread enough for us to actually have trust that we can get people in here safely. The other part is to do a high-level artist, you have to have a lot of tickets to make the money even break even. So if I have to sell at least 1,200, 1,300 tickets to break even, I really want to sell 2,000 to make some money. So can I fully feel that I can hold 1,200 people with health and safety standards? We're pretty tight in with Broadway League. We have a bi-weekly call with them just to talk about what's going on in New York. Everything kind of follows how Broadway in New York works. They don't think any tours will happen before late fall at this point. So it's always kind of moving the target. It's been fun too, with talking about moving shows. We actually, at one point, we're going to have a 3-week rental with Broadway where they were going to tech out Jesus Christ Superstars tour here in Clowes Hall. And we had a partnership going where the theater department was going to be able to be here every day and learn from the touring crew about how touring Broadway works and how they get up a show, which fell apart, obviously, with everything moving. But there's some unique, talking about interesting partnerships that we're trying to get in here, take advantage of the situation where we can to help out the university too.
Anybody else?
There's one more. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was reading the question from Pamela, which is the largest academic college. So the largest college on campus that we have is Liberal Arts and Sciences, I believe it is. The bad part for me as a Butler administrator is I don't know how big the college is. I know how big the graduating class is going to be because I run graduations on campus. And they're going to have they have the largest graduating class, right around 400. But Liberal Arts and Sciences and the Lacey School of Business are our largest colleges.
Nice. And we will welcome Pamela. I believe she's part of our contingent from Jamaica that has been joining us through this season.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so talk about regional reach. We have some international reach as well.
Very cool.
Thank you.
So Ralph Reef in athletics has been kind of on the forefront of the COVID response, preparedness, all of that. How has that impacted your plans, or how have you been able to learn a lot from him where other theaters may not have that resource?
For sure. So I'm on the campus health and safety team, and Ralph is as well. So it's been great to hear firsthand what he's thinking. He has so many connections in the industry, and I think everyone on campus will give him credit for athletics being able to operational right now on campus. I know if we're going into basketball season, we're going to be testing the athletes 3 times a week per Big East standards. It might be NCAA standard, one of the standards. And so it's been really helpful to hear what Ralph's going on in the athletics world and how that can translate to us, particularly as we were looking at bringing Broadway back. At one point, we were still going to go forward with Broadway in February with Jesus Christ Superstar. And part of the agreement was that we were going to have to test all of the theater staff, all the stagehands, and all of the actors daily as part of that agreement. And so getting his insight from, hey, where are you getting these rapid tests? What's working, what's not was super helpful.
Awesome. Are there any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourselves as well and ask. I know questions can be difficult typing.
Speaking of the Broadway series, right now about half of them are at Clowes and half of them are at the Murat. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to get them all at Clowes?
I wish. So kind of the history on that, you may not have realized I love Indianapolis theater history. I've kind of been brown nosing to everybody to get all their information over the years. So we used to have the full Broadway series here at Clowes way back when. Then Sunshine Promotions came in. They renovated the Murat. They renovated Clips, a couple theaters down in Kentucky. And then they turned into Live Nation, actually. So they own a Broadway series too, and part of this with bringing the old National Center and the Murat back up to par to operational again was this agreement with Broadway across America that they would split the Broadway series in both venues. We've been working really hard with Broadway to give us, for a while, we kind of got the worst shows, I felt like. The good shows went downtown to the Murat. They've got more seats. They can make more money down there. I get it, but don't leave us for nothing, right? I don't want the shows that are only going to get 60% capacity. I want big shows. And we were able to start turning that corner a few years ago. Like we had Book of Mormon came to us over going downtown. Jersey Boys came to us over going downtown. Looking at next season, everything's moving. We're arguing right now that we should either get Mean Girls or Dear Evan Hansen next year over going downtown. We've proven that we can handle those large capacities. And in some ways, we can handle them a lot better than the Murat. The problem is I'm about 200 seats too small to really make the most money. We've got some internal design ideas about how we can increase capacity of Clowes Hall. The capacity is much smaller than it was when we opened, actually. So how can we bring it back up? The big difference between us and the Murat is they may have those 300 more seats. Those 300 seats are not good. The sound quality is bad underneath the balcony of the main floor. A lot of sites have vision issues. Seats have vision line issues. Whereas here, we're full view in every seat. Okay, so do I compromise and put some limited view seats in to get the capacity up? Or do I double down and say, no, this is the best we have? And that's kind of, where do you be the bad guy on the money side versus being artistically good? We do have two different seating models. So like on a non-Broadway show, if we're bringing a comedian, it doesn't necessarily matter that you see that comedian all the time. So we do have a different type of seating chart to get more people in here in those cases. But yeah, I wish we could get the Broadway in here more. I think they'll probably hate how much I blow them up asking them about it. And there's a couple things too. There are ways, we're only a partner on the shows in Clowes Hall. There are conversations, do we become a partner on the shows in the Marat too? So maybe that, even though we don't have the show, we're still going to benefit from the series as a whole. You also take the downside of that too if the show's bad. We're in a golden age of Broadway right now where everything's selling, everybody's interested. It's not always like that. There are ups and downs with Broadway. So I take the good with the bad, but right now it's good. So I wish, so I want to story short. But while we're talking, like I went on the tangent about seating, we are actually going to do some renovation this summer here at Clowes Hall. With the increase in security needs to venues, Clowes Hall wasn't built to have metal detectors and wasn't built to have everyone enter a single door. The building was built to have people enter on the east, west, and south side in this big U around the lobby. But we can't do that right now with the way metal detectors are going. So we're actually going to be tearing down a wall on the south side of Clowes. So when you walk in the door, you're right in the lobby. We can put 10 metal detectors wide right there. We can be able to throughput people extremely fast. Our best guess is that we actually could put the entire 2,200 people in about 30 minutes if we needed to, if everyone showed up at the same time, which hopefully we never would have to do that. They wouldn't get through the parking garage quick enough for that to happen anyways, but we could be able to actually if people could get here. So it's going to be interesting to see how that impacts things too. As I said, we're targeting this fall date and we want to be the best Clowes we can. Part of this too is by into August, we're going to have this new entryway and this new design mechanism. We can say, hey, it's a whole new Clowes Hall, whole new artist coming in here. You won't believe who's coming. Let's go. So I'm hopeful in that. And maybe Broadway will follow then. Maybe they'll say, nope, Clowes is the hot spot. We got to go there.
Has the pandemic and the postponements allowed you to do some of any changes or structurally, programmatically, whatever that you might not have been able to do?
For sure. To give an example, so the Clowes Community Foundation kind of is really who's kind of supported renovations to the building over the years. They gave us some money to update lighting about 5 years ago. And it took us the whole 5 years to get those changes done because of working around show schedules. It's hard to find 2 weeks where we're dark with nothing going on, that we can actually have time to get the scaffolding down the lobby, go pull the ceiling down, put a new ceiling up, etc. So because of this time frame, we're able to change things around pretty easily now because there's so much downtime. So yes, exactly. So the big thing will be the South Lobby projects. We know we're going to have at least 4 solid months empty this summer, basically from April to August, to be able to knock that stuff out. And little things here and there. We're changing out like egress lights and things like nothing sexy, but the stuff that needs to happen that we haven't had the time to do.
Awesome, thank you. Are there any final questions? Carol, I'll turn things back over to you if you'd like to wrap up.
Okay. Erin, this was a fun presentation that you gave us. I had no idea. My whole family, except me, the trader, went to Butler. So there was a lot of singing the Bulldog song when I was growing up. At any rate, I want to thank you very, very much for being a part of our meeting today. And we are going to make a donation in your name to what is called Project 44, which is an Indianapolis-based nonprofit created to raise awareness of the National Bone Marrow Donor Registry, the need for donors and the impact of a donation of bone marrow can have on a child or adult battling that illness. Thank you once again.
Well, thank you. That's awesome. Thanks so much.
Yes. We'd love to have you as a member of our downtown Kiwanis. So that would be wonderful. Then we could prey on your knowledge and experience a lot more often. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks
we will be hosting another Zoom meeting in 2 weeks on December 3rd with our guest Judge Maggie Robb, the first woman elected chief judge in the 110-year history of the Court of Appeals. I'm really looking forward to hearing her. Everyone have a great rest of your week and a wonderful Thanksgiving. to you and your families. See you soon.